It's 7 o'clock. Let's call this regular stated meeting to order. Katie, please collect the roll.
Mrs. Sealing? Here. Mr. Ewing?
Here.
Mr. Hoffman?
Here.
Mr. Winbolt?
Not there. I'm in Manchester, New Hampshire, but I'm present.
Thank you. Mr. Updike?
Present.
Mrs. Mitchell? Present. Mr. Anderson?
Here. First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
So move. Second.
It's moved and seconded for the approval of the agenda. Any edits or corrections, amendments? Katie, please collect the vote.
Mr. Ewing?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Winbolt?
Yes.
Mr. Updike?
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell? Yes. Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Sealing? Yes. Approved.
Very good. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good. Thank you. Welcome. We appreciate you joining our board meeting tonight. Welcome, board members. Jason, a little distance between you and I, but we can make that work. Appreciate you joining in online. Moving on to recognitions, Dr. Burke.
Yeah, I'm excited. Michelle Hackney is at a national conference, so she'd normally do this, but I get the pleasure. We're going to get to announce the Horizon Award winner for the district. And for those of you who may be listening or don't remember what this is the outstanding first year teacher from last year. And I got to tell you, we have an extraordinarily great amount of first year teachers. And I can tell you the competition was fierce. But when it came down to it, we'll start with Allison Daniels. She is from the Early Learning Academy. So we're going to have her stand up. And Mr. Updike can have you go out there and shake her hand, get a picture taken. And so we'll recognize her. She's the first winner from the Early Learning Academy. And guys, this is a big deal. So I not only am going to ask you to clap, but I think you should stand up and clap. And Allison, we don't want to put you on the spot, but you're always welcome to say something to the board. And if nothing else, you ought to recognize the people that came to see you.
Okay, my mom and dad came tonight. I couldn't have got it without them, so.
So Allison was our Elementary Horizon Award winner of the year. And then we have Meredith Hellis. Did I say that right? Hellis. And I even wrote it down wrong. Meredith Hellis, and she is at Spring Hill Middle School, and she is the secondary New Horizon Award winner. So again,
I just want to say thank you, especially to my husband Corey. He was a great big support to me last year, my first year, and again, I couldn't have done it without you.
and since Mr. Updike's out there, we're going to have him stay out there. We have another person that is a big winner. Trevor Gertson was named the National Association of Secondary School Principals Digital Principal of the Year. That is a huge honor. We got to, believe it or not, we did it digitally and virtually and recognized him. But this is a huge honor, and we want to recognize Trevor as well. You want, oh, there you go. Yeah, plaque and stuff. So, Mr. Gertzen, we're going to have you go ahead and stay up here since, first of all, they want to know if you won anything. And then second of all, we'll give you an opportunity to recognize, do recognitions for Spring Hill Middle School.
Wonderful. No major gifts of any kind other than I was supposed to go to a trip to Washington, DC. But it worked out really, really well because I had COVID. So I wouldn't have been able to go anyway. So I'm glad the trip got canceled. They're talking about hopefully reschedule it in April sometime, but that would have been a 4-day trip to the Capitol and get to meet Secretary of Education, that kind of stuff. But hopefully the opportunity comes again. Got a neat little glass trophy about that big, pretty stout thing. But people come in, they see it and they don't really know what it is. And they kind of like, oh, okay. And just we go on with business. So ultimately, that's what I want, to just be able to use the experience to help promote Spring Hill Middle School, and then also be able to celebrate the staff and the work that they have done. So there will be a magazine coming out next month, the Principal Leadership Magazine, that'll be on the cover of that, which will be kind of fun. So we'll see what comes of it. And it's been a cool experience, but none of it would have been possible without the people here at Spring Hill, my administrative colleagues, and then especially my staff, because they're the ones that actually do the work that we put before them. So it's really because of what they've done for us and for our kids that makes that possible. Speaking of my staff and our kids, well, I have the opportunity to recognitions. I want to recognize our fall coaches this year that I'm part of cross country, football, and volleyball. So wonderful coaches that have put up, and I don't have the exact records for our volleyball coaches and for our football and cross country, but it's never been about the record. It's all about the relationships they build with the kids. And that's why the coaches do it, is because of the experiences they have with them. And so our coaches this year, we have Jeff Preston, who is a first-time middle school teacher and a first-time head coach. And so he coached cross country along with Sarah Hayes, which has been a really good experience for him. Our volleyball coaches, Molly Dugan, Lisa Lucas, Jennifer Steckline, and Ashley Jasper take care of our volleyball girls for us. And with our football team, Tucker Woofter leads that group along with Dalton Maples, Jordan Cooper Smith, and Chris Edstrom. And so they're doing a tremendous job. Again, it's never been about the record. It's always been about the relationships with kids and helping them grow as people. So that's for Spring Hill Middle School.
Wolf Creek Elementary School, Beth Cooper.
Good evening. Tonight, I want to thank everyone who has been working so hard to get our new volunteer registration program up and running. It's been a good bit of work. So I want to in particular thank Christopher Villarreal and Michelle Hackney, who have been helping at the district level. At school, our secretaries, Christy Weber and Sandy Lancelotti, as well as our teachers, have been working really hard to put that all together. And I also want to thank our parents because they've been very supportive and very patient as we've worked out the logistics and how to get this up and running. We've had 2 big field trips in the last few days at Wolf Creek, and our Watchdog Dads have kicked off and are running. And so thanks to everybody who have put this together so we can have this extra layer of safety and security for our schools.
Timber Sage Elementary School, Mika Bauer.
Good evening. Tonight, I would like to recognize our 3 district leader and me coaches. They are Miss Tammy Endicott, principal at Spring Hill Elementary School, Miss Lisa Konzum, who is the instructional coach at Timber Sage, as well as Miss Angie Janovic, who is the instructional coach at Prairie Creek Elementary School. These 3 have really poured a lot of time into making sure that we were prepared for the implementation of Leader and Me at the elementary level. They have really made sure that we understand the framework and that we have been examining our own habits and paradigms and grown ourselves as leaders. And we look forward to the partnership as we continue to work with those 3 district coaches throughout the duration of the school year. Thank you.
I know that Mrs. Cole was in today, but I think that she became ill later in the afternoon. So I don't know if she's on there. So if not, we'll move on to Spring Hill Elementary School, Tammy Endicott.
I wanted to take a minute to, I don't know if you've heard, but the Chiefs organization reached out to me and I worked with Dr. Smith to be a part of their program, Kingdom United, which is about getting books in kids' hands and some about diversity as well. But we received over 2,000 books from them. And I wanted to recognize Shelley Huber for counting all those books and making sure we had enough and unloading them and then getting them all separated because each grade level gets a different theme or different title. And so separating them all, and she's also delivering them once a month. And it's been great so far. We've had great success with it, and the kids are loving getting those books in their hands. So I wanted to recognize Shelley Huber and also thank the chiefs for reaching out. We're one of a very few number of schools that are able to participate, and I don't know why we were chosen. I'm guessing Marcel's been a part of that organization and doing a lot of things with them, so I'm guessing that's how we got on the list. But I'm thankful they called because it is putting books in kids' hands. They're all scholastic books. They're great books, great questions. They did change it a little bit to where they're not asking questions. It was pretty open-ended questions. Now they're really just asking questions about the books, which I like a little bit better. So they've improved it even from last year, and I look forward to continuing this relationships with the chief organization. So thank you.
So we have Dayton Creek Elementary School, Darcy Sly.
Good evening. I would like to recognize our custodian, our day custodian, Mr. Jeff Lang. This man is amazing. Opening a new building, he was out there as it was being built, watching over everything, making sure everything was being taken care of. And I don't think he had any idea when he moved from the middle school to the elementary school that lunchtime would be as an active sport as it is. I don't think he ever knew he was going to open so many ketchup and mustard and pizza sauce packets as he has in the last few days, but he always does it with a smile, and he is a great friend to the kids. The kids love talking to him. He'll sit down at the tables and visit with them, and it's just been fun to watch, and he's just been a benefit to us in that school, opening it and then just becoming a great friend of the kids. I also want to recognize Ariel Jankard, our instructional coach there at Dayton Creek, with the new math curriculum and FastBridge, and then working with our new teachers. She's just been amazing. She's a great person to walk into a classroom and give advice, help, and just step in and model and co-teach with the teachers. And she's not afraid to jump in and do it right there with them. So I really appreciate her help as well.
Rod Sprague, Woodland Spring Middle School.
Good evening. I have a couple of groups I want to recognize tonight. First off, as Mr. Gertson said, we just finished we are finishing our fall sports season. Our volleyball team competed in league last week. We had our 7th grade varsity and 8th grade varsity both took first place. And our JV teams, our 7th grade JV took 2nd and our 8th grade JV took 3rd. So we're really proud of our athletes there. Our cross country team competed in league cross country this week. And we had 6 top 10 finishers, which was fantastic. In 7th grade boys, we had 5th place was Brecken Martin. For girls, Lizzie Olson took 9th place and Lily Bunker took 7th place. In the 8th grade boys, Dylan Estes took 9th place. Zach Anderson took 4th place. And in the 8th grade girls, our one 8th grade girl that runs, Sophie Rivers took 1st place in league. So we're really proud of her. If you've ever had an opportunity to go to a cross-country league meet, it's huge. There's a lot of kids running, not only kids from our league, but from other places too. So we're really proud of those. Also, our football teams. I just had the privilege of having dinner with our 8th grade football team. Tomorrow night, they play for 1st place in league. They've had an undefeated season so far, so we're really proud of those guys. I will tell you, it's so much fun just to spend time with them and to laugh and talk and joke. And the great thing, and Mr. Gertson said this, is what they talk about is not records. They don't talk about wins and losses and stuff like that. They talk about the fun they've had on the field in practice and in games and stuff like that. They talk about the experiences they've had with coaches and with each other. That is so much fun to watch. The discipline and hard work that they do is just fantastic. And then the last group I want to recognize are my teachers who are working with MTSS. Over the course of this 9 weeks, we've adopted a new assessment system. And with that, we're learning new ways to look at kids and look at what their needs are. Our language arts teachers, and I have to mention them by name, Cooper Allison, Ms. Collins and Ms. Floyd have all been working with language arts, getting our tier 2 interventions set up and our tier 3 interventions set up with Jolene Rutledge and with Tammy Nichols. So we're really proud of those. And our 8th grade, our math teachers, Mr. Clark in 8th grade, Ms. Sandberg in 7th grade, and Ms. Beshore in 6th grade have been working with iReady and the iReady diagnostic, which is being affectionately called in my building the iDog now. we had to laugh about that one. And then working with Jolene Rutledge to plan out the interventions for math. So we're really excited about everything that's taking place with that. The gains we're looking forward to seeing in kids is just tremendous. So they've done a lot of fantastic work, and I can't wait to see what happens the rest of the school year.
And Spring Hill High School, Mark Williams.
Good evening. I have a couple of recognitions this evening. First would be Dan Woogie and our wonderful students that make up the marching band. They went to Emporia State last Wednesday, finished with straight ones, and finished third overall in the competition, which is tremendous. They will go to Baker this Wednesday night. I believe they are at 7:45 competition time, which is the last one in the evening. So it's the premier time for them. So these kids put in a lot of time before school, after school, during the day, and everything else like that. So they deserve all the recognition possible with that. And second, I'd like to recognize Clay Freegon. He's our CTE coordinator, and Janet Taylor, she's our registrar. I put a sheet on your desk for you this evening. This Wednesday night, we have a college and career fair going on while there is parent-teacher conferences. So you'll find a list of the colleges they'll be attending and businesses they'll be attending. We're hoping to have a large turnout from our parents and students, juniors and seniors particularly, to see what's next post-secondary or whatever's available after high school with that. But those two put a lot of work in to get this planned and organized. Thank you.
I see Mrs. Cindy Jaldos is back there, so I think we're going to hear from our Special Services Department.
I just wanted to take a minute. October is Physical Therapy Recognition Month, and so I wanted to take a minute to recognize our two physical therapists, Lisa Dooley and Terry Newkirk, and the work that they do for our students in our district. So,
looks like Cassie Barton from Insight is wanting to come up.
I just wanted to take a few moments to recognize our high school staff. Our preliminary 2021 graduation rate has increased over last year by about 16.5%. Which is another very significant jump. So we're very excited. Also would like to thank our high school principal, Dr. Weber, and counselor who's returned with us this year, Deb Zumwalt. They pushed really hard to make sure that each student had at least 2 in-depth conversations with their counselors about their grad plan last year. And we're pushing to make it even more this year. So we're very excited. And also at Insight, we're starting an esports team this year. And I wanted to recognize Sean McGuire, who has taken on that adventure as our coach, Coach Mack. And we ran a design competition for some students to, I guess, try their hand at designing a logo for the esports team. And our student Kay Reynolds was our winner. And so that's going to be our logo on our jerseys that our esports athletes wear. So we're excited. Thank you.
Any other directors, administrators? Okay.
Well, one more recognition, right? Congratulations, Dr. Burke.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well done.
When's the finals?
Oh, yeah, and we're talking to code up here a little bit. Dr. Burke is in the final 3 for Superintendent of the Year in the state of Kansas. It's a great honor. It's really a testament and verification of how hard he works and his commitment to the district and to education all over the state. So certainly in our district.
Thank you. Very unexpected and I'm very humbled. I had a leader is only as good as the people who works for him. And I've been very fortunate to have incredible, outstanding people work for me and to work me, and I appreciate the board giving us these opportunities. I have an interview on Friday and then sometime after that. So again, very honored to even be considered. So pretty happy.
Let's stand up and say yes. Thank you. Thanks to the Horizon Award winners. I didn't get to say anything. I always like to say something just because it's such an honor to have you working in our district and providing the amazing education to our students. We really appreciate it. It's a great honor. And first year, I'm not a teacher, but I know just from experiences in my family that first year's kind of a little bit of a mountain to climb over, and it takes a lot of work and support from people around you too. So congratulations and well done. It's hard earned, but well deserved. Thank you.
Congrats. Thank you.
Enjoy dinner.
Yeah. Enjoy your dinner. Okay, moving on to, excuse me, business with individuals. Candy or Katie?
No cards were received.
Mr. President, if you would indulge me, I would just like to read a brief statement about this.
About
Public participation.
Okay.
I was appalled this week that the National Association of School Boards petitioned our federal government to crack down on parents speaking of school boards. To me, it's a direct assault on home rule. I have not agreed with all the speakers that have come to speak to us this year, but I absolutely support their right and obligation to speak to us about our schools and about their students.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Thank you, Nels. Moving on to the consent agenda, which consists of approval of the consent agenda items, approval of the minutes, treasurer's report, payroll and claims, personnel, and early graduation requests.
I just had a quick question about the, just in general about the early graduation request. Was that more or less or about the same as what we usually have?
Mark's got his finger. I was about to answer, but
Mhm.
I think we had 13 at one meeting last year, and then we had another 3 or 4 that came in after that.
Yeah, I believe last year it was 16 total, and we had a couple trickle in like at different meetings, but I believe it was 16 total. And this year, I believe we're at 24.
Okay, and so percentage wise too, it's up a little bit?
It's probably up,
A
yeah.
little bit. Okay, just curious. Thanks.
One of the things, Mr. Updike and I were talking about this earlier, that families have to make the decision that's best for them. But we do have them talk to a counselor, and we have verification that they have the credits that meet the requirements to graduate. Also have the principal sign off that on as well. And then the parents, along with the students, provide a letter. And so we feel like this is a process that a lot of steps for them to go through in order to do that. As an old guy, I hopefully our students will be young as long as they can and enjoy that. But at the same time, some people are ready to move on, whether it's work or career or the military, and we certainly understand and respect that as well.
Their letters were all very impressive. So kudos to all of those students that wrote letters. Mr. President, I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second the motion.
Moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any final corrections or discussion? Katie, please collect the vote.
Mr. Hoffman,
Yes.
Mr. Winbolt,
Yes.
Mr. Updike,
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Sealing,
Yes.
Mr. Ewing.
Yes.
Approved.
Very good, thank you. Moving on to action item on Evergy Metro Incorporated easement, Dr. Burke.
Yeah, if the board remembers, not at the last board meeting, but the meeting prior to that, we had a presentation. Tim Meek did the full presentation. At that time, we knew that we wouldn't have all the documents, and we figured that it would be at this meeting. So we have had this as a discussion item. This is on that partial land that will have to do with middle school number 3, if I remember. And so with that, the board is asked to approve the easement for Evergy Metro Incorporated for middle school number 3. And Tim will answer any questions that you have.
If I can. We did have the usual Evergy easement that included poles and everything else going across our property, and we had that removed. So like we do every time, if there's not a need for them to have poles there, we don't allow them to put that in, so at later time they can come back in and put a above ground service in if they wanted to. So other than that, it's the standard same easement that we've approved multiple times for them. So. it runs basically, and it joins on the north side of Prairie Creek, or not Prairie Creek, Wolf Creek, and runs along the fence there, and then we'll go across the parking lot to the back to the service entrance for the building, so. Pretty short and not really much usable space that will.
Is that direct buried or do they?
No, it's all in conduit.
Comment.
Yeah, it's conduit, and there's multiple sectionalizers across there as well that it comes up into. So we or they have the ability down the road to tap into that if we ever needed to pull something out of one of the sectionalizers.
Is that a new name? Metro, Evergy Metro?
It's Evergy, but their official corporate name
Is Metro?
is Evergy Metro, or however it's worded on Evergy Metro Incorporated, a Missouri corporation is the whole corporate name for them.
Any questions on the easement? This is how
Mr.
we get power
President.
to our building, right?
What's that?
We have to have this for power to our building, right?
If we don't approve it, they're probably not gonna pull the power into the building, so we haven't got that wireless electricity working that well yet to serve it, so. They did ask when we did this to extend at our cost some additional lines. We told them no. They wanted us to go ahead and make a loop to join up with from 192nd Street basically over to 193rd Street. And we said, no, we don't have it in our budget. And they quickly backed down. They were trying to get us to do it if we would. So, we told them no. And I'll be talking to you later about another easement they want. So.
Nels, did you?
Mr. President, I move we approve the easement for Evergy Metro Inc.
Second.
Corporation for electrical service to Spring Hill Middle School number 3.
Second.
It's moved and seconded to approve the Evergy easement for middle school number 3 as presented. Any final comments or discussion? Katie, please collect the vote.
Mr. Winbolt,
Yes.
Mr. Updike,
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Sealing,
Yes.
Mr. Ewing,
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman,
Yes.
approved.
Very good. Thank you. Got lost here. Hold on. I was gonna, we'll move on to discussion items. 8.01 bond construction update. Dr. Kirk.
Yeah, Tim Meek is ready to give you an update on what's going on. We still have things being built out there.
We do. We are luckily on pretty much our last project of the bond issue though. So that's a good thing. The budget, no changes from the previous month's budgets at this point. Dayton Creek Elementary School, we're just waiting on a little bit of site landscaping. They came out and they did a little bit of landscaping. We walked it, weren't happy with everything as far as seating. We weren't happy with what they did. So they're coming back to do it again. They just planted a rye, which is not our seed. What they planted came up really quick and looks good in the places they planted it, but we're asking them to come back with a fescue blend that we specified. And also, other than that building was complete. Spring Hill Middle School number 3. This is a little bit harder job right now than the Dayton Creek. Construction began back in the spring. Will still be done in the fall of 2023. We're continuing with masonry walls. We're beginning erecting the steel framing. If you drove by and you can see it it's hard, 193rd, if you pull up there a little ways, you can see some of on the north side of the building, you can start to see some of the steel frame go up. Continuing with the sanitary sewer and storm line installation, just about ready to wrap that up, and continuing with the public improvements on 191st, 192nd, 193rd. We're scheduled to have those paved early to middle part of November. 191st Street, we will be having some traffic control going on that as we put in the deceleration lane coming from the west there during the day from 8 o'clock until 3 o'clock. We told them they couldn't do it before 8 o'clock when the school started, and then they have to be done by 3 o'clock when we're getting out. So between 8 and 3, they'll be closing it down to one lane. They'll have flaggers there to direct traffic in that area for about a week while they get that all ready for asphalt paving in that area. So they should start on that. They were going to start today, but something called rain slowed us down. So, which was good to the point. Challenge successes, the sheet exit, our site utilities have been doing a great job. Concrete slab is complete. Track asphalt is done. Evergy electrical easement, that's a success now. I put that in there thinking you guys would approve it. So Water One, the benefit district, and water main extension agreements successful too, to get that in and to proceed with Water One and some more planning. The one challenge there is Delta and the availability of roofing materials. Right now, we got word Thursday that the fasteners for the roofing system has been delayed until approximately March at the earliest. We had a quick meeting Friday. We're looking at alternatives, what we can find. John Mansville was a supplier for those. John Mansville decided that they were not going to support anybody but the people that use their own roofing materials. So anybody who had an order in for fasteners with John Mansville got their order canceled. This had happened a while back. They went to ABC Supply, had an order in. ABC Supply, I can't tell you who their supplier is. Got word on Wednesday that they're being delayed almost 3 months on the delivery of their fasteners. So it's pushed it back to March. Again, we're meeting with design team, meeting with Delta, meeting with J.E. Dunn to come up with some potential alternates that we can look at to move it on. Delta has some ways to go ahead and put a temporary roof on some key areas that we need to, such as electrical, the switchgear areas and some like that, so we can proceed with some of that. But we don't want to go too far with that till we can have with anything else until we can have a full roof on the building. So we're looking at we're looking at some other companies. I had a call with our Garland rep. He's in Europe on vacation on Friday. He won't be back until this Friday, but he took my call on Friday and we discussed, and while he's on vacation, he's getting to do a little work to help figure out what they can do as a company to support us and all that. We're also looking at other suppliers, other companies as well, to see what they can. There is some chemically adhered, for lack of a better word, adhesive, some polyurethane adhesives that you can use to do some adherence of the roof membrane. Not actually the roof membrane, it's the board. It's like a concrete board that goes down first over the flutes in the metal decking. And so we're investigating that to see what we can do there. At this time, we don't believe Garland supports that, but there are a couple of other companies who roofs do support it. So we're just saying we're pricing, we're looking at other alternatives so we can not lose 3 to 4 months. Again, March is what they're telling us today, and the way supply chains are going, things just keep sliding in a lot of things. Along that same supply lane, we have had some other people come to us and in a little more positive notes. Our low voltage supplier, wire supplier, he said, I've got the opportunity to buy my wire now. He said, I don't have a place to store it. we have a place to store it. One of the great things now, we have a warehouse. And we've told him, get the wire, we'll store it in our warehouse for you. When you need it, you can come and get it and haul it out of there. So we've talked to them, we've talked to our electrical people, we've talked to several of the other contractors that may have some items like that. Electrical said they are trying to get a hold of all of their unique fixtures that they have. They haven't had a problem right now with like the 2x4 and the 2x2 troffers going in. Those are mostly made in the US and they haven't had a problem with them. So they're not as concerned about them, but some specialty can lights and some of these linear fluorescent fixtures that you see like up above you have been a little harder to get. So they're looking at trying to bring them in. If they don't have enough room in their warehouse, we've offered to store them. So some of those things are happening. The switch gear is almost all here already. So it's being stored at Parts Electric. So that's a good thing to have that, because that's been one of the things that's also had some lead time problems. So we're doing good there. Evergy is asking for, that's later, I'm sorry. I just looked at Evergy electrical easement. So getting down to the pictures there real quick, you can just see from 8/3 of 21 to 10/6. We had last month's picture in there, and we said, let's back up 2 months just to see what really happened in 2 months. And when you see what happened in 2 months, you can definitely see all the slabs done. You know, the walls are gone up on the gymnasium, and several of the other masonry walls are starting to really go up as well. So proceeding well. You can see the structural steel that was delivered to the site. That was on 10/5. And again, I wouldn't say most of it, a lot of that's already been been put up. And there's the masonry walls of the gym, masonry walls and some restrooms in the north end of the building. You can see some of the athletic field stuff, the track asphalt there as well. There's 191st Street. You can see where we put the box culvert extension in, and that's where that deceleration lane will be coming in. And that's the one I talked to you about. We'll have it coming off. You can see the road extension. The base is all in and ready to go on 193rd Street. 192nd Street is done and ready. So we're just waiting on 191st to get the curb people there and then the asphalt there on those. So since there's a lot of things that I covered there, I'll probably just ask if there's any questions about the middle school first before I go on to the other things. So. All right, we'll go on to other construction and maintenance projects. If you have something later, we can come back to. Solar panel project. Scheduled, began in the summer of 2021, supposed to complete in fall of 2021. We'll talk about that here in a minute. This week, they had the installation perimeter fencing and all the panel mounting hardware began, as well as actually have a panel or two put up as well. If you get an opportunity to drive behind the high school in the teacher's parking lot there, you can actually kind of look down and see the solar field. So if you want to get your own view of it, you don't have to just look at my pictures. You can see it with your own eyes, looking over the hill there down into where it's at. So. Roof repairs at the bridge. Oh, yeah.
Quick question on the solar panels. Are those just tied into the high school or into the whole grid of the campus, or?
They're just into the high school alone, but it is tied in then back into the whole grid as well, not the school district grid, but Evergy's grid. Oh. So we will have the ability to, on that 1 or 2 rare days where it's 60 degrees out and it's nobody in the school and all the lights are pretty well turned off, and we catch that one time where there's not any HVAC running because it's a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon, we potentially will have the ability to sell the power back if there is excess power. So along with the solar panel here, Evergy, and it's another attachment. We'll give you a chance to look at that on your own if you want to. It's a map of a new service entrance that Evergy wants to put in for the solar for us. When we built the additions onto the high school and the stadium. Evergy said we probably should have been upgraded at that time for our feeder size. He said it is adequate, but it is right at the edge. And with this added solar, they really felt like it was time to go ahead and put in a new feeder for that, for the high school. And they're actually proposing along the north side of the drive to bring in a new service with upsized wire, so that it can handle that, and actually will give us quite a bit of ability to expand in the future. If we ever decide to expand, it should carry almost anything we can build on the rest of that site. So they're upping it significantly. The good part is, normally if we would have done this as part of our bond issue, we would have been charged for a lot of this, because Evergy wants to do it now because of the solar project. Them and EnergyLink, the company doing the solar project, are footing the bill for this. So there will be 2 power poles as part of this, and they'll be along Ridgeview Road. One of them has a recloser, which is a fancy electronic piece of switchgear breaker that can sense its own. If there's a fault in it, it'll go off and then come right back on. It automatically will reset itself. Most of the time, you don't even know that they're doing their job, but if there's a lightning strike on the grid somewhere, it can protect that. If there's an undercurrent, it can also sense that and can shut down for a moment as well. So in order to do that, they have to have 3 poles in line. One of them will be on the other side of the road. One of them will be in the middle, which is where the recloser is. And then the third one will be where it comes up. So at the front of our driveway to the north side, there will be 2 power poles on our property and an additional power pole across the road on that. So just so you're aware of it, it's really hard. Their drawing is hard to see. They originally had some wire that was only going to be buried 40 inches. We've asked that they can bury it deeper, so that if we ever do need to expand that direction, we can go over the top of it. And they said that wasn't a problem, as well as we had them move some of their equipment that was going to be in that way too. They've shifted some of their deals so we can get it out of the way of a future building site if we happen to bring the high school straight to the north. So just trying to do a little bit of future proving. I mean, trying to do our crystal ball as best that we can on that with them. So I will be bringing back meeting or 2 or 3 whenever they get it all ready for the easement for this project. They'll ask for an easement for that. So again, it's a good deal for us because it does give us the power for the future. It will protect our building. Again, it's one of their newest. The other thing it will do, will allow them also though to watch, because our meters are not as easy to watch as this recloser is. They will be able to see exactly if we are flowing power back to them real quickly and in real time. So and it will protect their grid is the big thing too. It'll help protect their grid. So, that's part of the reason why they wanted to do it, not just being the kindness of their heart too. So, make sure I got all that.
Roof.
All right. Any questions on solar panel? Roof repairs at the virtual education center.
When do they think the solar panel project will be complete?
Well, Evergy is they only brought this up about less than 2 weeks ago. There might be a supply chain problem. So the sectionalizers, they believe they can get here in the next few weeks, but there's a couple of other components that I think maybe
this year or
slow.
next year.
It should still be late this year, we're hoping. So, it'd been nice to get a little bit more of the sunny days yet, but, so we're kind of at their mercy right now anyway. So, but unless Kylie, you have a better, is that pretty much what you think, probably the end of this year? Okay, that's kind of what we were in the last meeting we had. I didn't think he had talked to him any since. So. Roof repairs at the virtual education center. That is basically done. They were going to remove all the flagging and all the equipment off of the roof today. They have one piece of trim that they're waiting on, but they've got a temporary piece of metal there. Or they still have a metal there, so it's not open, but when they get the one piece in, I can't tell which one it is, but they have it marked up on the roof from down below. You don't know what it is. So once we get it all done and they get that in, we'll do a punch list with them and we'll make sure they get their one piece of metal finish that they're missing. So any questions?
On the delay on the roof fasteners, is that overall, is there an estimated impact to the overall project schedule?
If we can't find an alternative, there could be more than just schedule. There could be a cost problem too, because if we have to have remobilizations for some contractors to go away and come back, then that's a cost that we would have to help absorb. We could see what we could get out of the roofing company for it, but talking with J.E. Dunn and their people, they think it'd be pretty hard for us to, because of the environment we're in right now, for us to be able to do any damages to the roofing contractor for it. So
you might get away with one and then you're gonna have trouble getting people to bid our projects.
Yeah. And so it's kind of a scary thing right now, but we're working hard to find out what we can do. Like I said, one of our best leads right now is not a Garland product. It's still a 30-year roof. It's still a modified bit roof. But it's another company that has it. They have a local presence. They have a factory in Kansas City that is manufacturing some of their products, not the product we would use, but they have a good local presence here in the town. So it's kind of a neat thing to have somebody to talk to that's a little bit more local. Their corporate offices and for the US is in Cleveland, Ohio, where a lot of roofing companies like to have their corporate office for that. I think they're right down the road from where Garland's is. So again, we're looking at other solutions to try to keep us on. This company says they believe they can do it. We still have to look at pricing though to see what it is and have to weigh okay, is it better to pay a little bit more to bring a change order back to you guys for a little bit more money? Or is it better to let people walk and then try to get them back here in 3 months? What's going to be our lower cost? So a lot of things we're trying to weigh right now to see what's best. So.
Are there any other supply chain kind of things you're foreseeing? I know I had a discussion with the HVAC company and they said they're starting to see some more repair than new construction.
Actually, our rooftop units are still in line to be produced here in November. And then they're going to be brought up and stored for about 3 months, 2 to 3 months anyway. So at this point, we're pretty confident in most of our HVAC stuff. Also, the ductwork and all of that, they claim that they have sufficient supply of ductwork, and our plumbers have already bought a lot of their stuff. And a lot of our contractors are warehousing stuff for us already. They've seen it coming and they're trying to get as much stuff in as they can, and they're warehousing it. Our rough carpentry, Zimmerman Construction, they went out and bought all of the lumber that they need pretty much, and they're warehousing it for, I questioned whether lumber would come down anymore. And Jack says, this is what I know I can afford because this is what the price I bid it at. So I'd be glad to take the chance if it goes down. So I know if it goes up, I I don't have to worry about it. So he's bought most of the lumber that he needs and brought it into his warehouse. So, so right now paint would be one of them, but paint's quite a little ways down the road. So, I don't know when that one will be over. Paint's pretty slim to come by right now, but we'll see what that is when it comes around. When Sherwin-Williams, one of the biggest guys around, are saying, well, we can't get you any paint right now. It's pretty serious. So.
Did we still have to do the steel bracing since I saw that some of the structural steel had come in? Did we still do that?
What we had to do the steel bracing on is what we call the long span,
right?
The trusses, which is a gym, and there are two different companies that produce those. The smaller trusses, bar joists are produced by a different company than do the long span. The long span are the ones that were the furthest ones out. So yeah, we still had to do it, and we're still looking at a late December, roughly time. They say they haven't slipped any, so we're still on course for them. So if nothing else right now, I will give Mike Leesinger with J.E. Dunn kudos for the number of calls that he is making with all of his guys. I mean, a couple of times a week, he is checking supply chain stuff with them to make sure there's not anything that has come up that we weren't aware of. So, plus J.E. Dunn has a large presence, and they also know if there's a problem with anything else. And so, especially if they get that word that, hey, we're having problems with this item, they are on the phone with that contractor saying, okay, are wood doors a problem? If they are a problem, and all the school district will warehouse them for them if you can get them here, anything like that we can have, that we have the space for, we will try to warehouse for them right now. So.
I had one more question. Actually, it was for the consent agenda. Maybe it's for Kylie. We are spending a fortune on those HVAC units at the middle school. What's going on there?
I'll let Kylie answer it if he wants to.
It seemed like such a good idea at the time, and now not so much.
Yeah, I will let Kylie answer it. He's the most up to date with that, but it did seem like the best idea and the best solution. I will say there's some problems with LG in general right now. Multiple schools are doing some stuff, but I'll let Kylie give his.
So you're speaking about the cost from the outside contractor doing the work?
I was just looking through all the checks or the bills to HVAC for the middle school.
So staffing, huge problem. I've got a gentleman out, maintenance. He's been out for 3 months now. So that's a big contributing factor. And the VRF LG systems are their own animal. They're very difficult to work on. Takes a lot of time and material and cost to get those worked on. There's not like your typical rooftop units.
Right.
But mainly staffing.
So it's not so much the parts that are falling apart. It's just need help keeping them going.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay. That's what I was looking
They
for.
require a lot more maintenance than what
they do. They do require a lot more maintenance, but the biggest thing is staffing. I just don't have the staff to, with having that person out on our maintenance staff, and I still have an open position for HVAC. I don't have anybody here doing HVAC except myself, and I try to do the best I can with what I have, but
yeah, it's the way of the world. Thanks, Kylie.
Kylie might be busy with a few other things.
Yeah.
Any other questions? If there is something, we'll glad to try to answer them. If I can't answer them, I'll gladly get part of my design and building team to help out too. I mean, right now we're all working towards solutions for a lot of things that are going on in the world. So the interesting thing with the fasteners are they're made in the USA. The other interesting part is though that they're made with Chinese material that they can't get. So, so that's kind of a little circle there. So, all right, thank you. All right, just stepping back so I can
Thank you, Tim.
put my other hat on.
Yeah, there you go. Safety handbook, Dr. Burke.
Yeah, Tim Meek's going to spend some more time with us.
This should be pretty short, really. Not a lot of updates to the handbook at all, really. Most of the update was with our reporting. We made sure we had the right people in the right spots on that. The biggest thing really isn't to deal with the handbook itself, but how the handbook is distributed as such. The handbook is one of the things we put on our Google Classroom at the beginning of the year now. So every employee, just like they have to do bloodborne pathogens, they have to do other things, have to review the safety handbook and sign off that they reviewed the safety handbook. So for reporting purposes, that's phenomenal. It takes a lot of the reporting off of individuals in every building and then trying to get that back to make sure everybody was trained on it. By having that, there's quick queries you can do on the Google Classroom, and just like the teachers use it, we can find out that Doug Updike hasn't done his yet, so we need to remind Doug to get through and do it. So and that is the biggest thing that we've changed on it, is just how we're disseminating that information. We've reviewed it, went over everything to see if there's anything we really want to change. The one thing I would like to say about, and I'll use Kylie for an example. In our facilities department, it's fun to see how safety is kind of starting to ooze out of us. We see a lot more signs everywhere about safety. As you leave our enclosed parking lot over there, right on the gate as you leave, there's a sign about safety there. We're doing our toolbox talks, which we've done for a while, but we're also using Google Classrooms for them, so that at the end of the week, Kylie gets his report that, okay, this person did not do their toolbox talk. Why not? Why did they not review that information? So it's neat to see how we're starting to get more and more of a culture of that. I believe, some of that hopefully is attributing to why our mod rate can continue to go down on the workman's comp, but we'll keep trying to push those things to make sure everybody doing it. We'll be sending out an email here shortly, just a few days before we see the first snowfall in, to remind people to dress sensibly. Don't wear your best slick dress shoes to work. If you have to wear them when you're in the building, bring another pair and do some of those things to try to just remind people that, because that's probably one of the biggest things that, that we have is falls in the parking lots or things like that. And as good a job as the facilities do on our parking lots, I put our parking lots up against anybody in the area, commercial or schools or whatever. They're always in very good shape, but you still have that one spot right where you step out of your car or step into your car that was frozen. So, we'll do some things to help remind people on that. So really, that's my report. Again, we brought this back to you. It was March or April of last year. We were a little later getting it to you. So haven't changed hardly anything other than that. And just make sure we're reviewing it annually, at least, if not more often, to make sure that we haven't added a program that needs to, we added quite a few things when we opened the Education Support Center next door, so that we can deal with all of the things that we've added in that space. So.
Any questions for Tim or comments on the safety handbook?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Do want to appreciate the staff. The reason that mod rate is so low is because our staff take this seriously, and we've been very, very fortunate. So we do a lot of training and a lot of reminders. So, but Tim did a lot of work putting that together and had a lot of help with it. So Appreciate that.
Very good. Moving on to remote board meeting specifications, Dr. Burke.
Yeah, we'll let Tim sit this one out and I'll try to take this one. Probably what I should have done is instead of calling it remote board meeting specification, I should have changed it to offsite board meeting specifications. And that might have made things a little bit easier. So that's my responsibility. A quick little history. What we did is we worked to limit the agenda when we're offsite. And when I mean offsite, that means away from the Spring Hill District Administrative Center. And those who've been around, I think a little bit longer than I have, maybe Candy, and then some of you have been around a while. What we wanted to do is concentrate on the student's presentation so that we were able to go to that building and really give that building an opportunity to shine and share what's going on in that building. And then give us some time to maybe, if we get done in time, have that breakfast with the kids and then have a building visit. That was kind of the history, and that's why we did that. As I mentioned at the last board meeting, when we set up live streaming, we set it up for this room, this building. And Phil and his people have done incredible work in setting up the live streaming. Now, to be honest, we thought we would have a little bit more time to get used to live streaming here and then kind of implement and then decide what we wanted to do with the future. As you all well know, COVID came in and then we started live streaming much earlier than we had planned. So when we talk about live streaming and on YouTube, I'm not talking about having Zoom meetings so board members like Jason or when people are out of town. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about live streaming it to the public. So there's pros and cons. Some of the pros is an opportunity for people who cannot attend the board meeting to watch the board meeting. It also gives a sense of transparency. So there's some positives. There's probably some other positives, and I'll let you talk about that in a minute. There's also some cons. First of all, it may limit student participation because we have some students that you can go into the building and you can see them, but they have media requests where they can't be seen by the media. If this goes live, then they're seen, and you know as well as I do, if people see an image, then they can pretty much use that image. We would need new equipment. It's not overly expensive and taxing, but we would need new equipment because we didn't plan to live stream away from this building. With that takes additional setup and takeout downtime. So Phil is a master and he does a great job, but he has to get somewhere early and then he's got to set that up, go through the parameters, and then he's got to go back later and shut it back down. Sound is kind of our biggest, I'm not speaking for Phil, but sound would be one of our biggest issues. It's not so much the video, it's trying to get the sound, especially when there's 8 of us that could be speaking and trying to get that in the public. So, and then the other thing is those of you who've been to buildings, you understand that when we go to a building, we may see a presentation in the library, but then they may want to take us down to the STEM lab or the cafeteria or the gym or another. Again, that mobility and moving. So, and then the last part that I think is kind of new to us is we've always had public participation at offsite when we've done that. But in the past, we've really not had very many people show up. Matter of fact, I've been doing it a long time. I can only think of maybe one person that's ever shown up. With some of the politics and some of the interest in some of the things that are going on, I don't know that the idea was to have a big group of participation at an individual school, especially when the idea at that school is to have the kids have an opportunity to share and to be part of that. So I'm not advocating one way or the other, but I did want to show a little history, some pros and cons, and then something other than that. Can we make it happen? Absolutely, we can. But with anything, there's a cost involved. And so we wanted you to understand that we can make it happen, but there are some cons that go with that. So with that, I'm going to be quiet and you can kind of discuss amongst yourselves.
Just an initial thought from 8 years ago or whenever it was when I started on the board, it seemed like we had
these meetings were a lot shorter and we were able to do the breakfast with the students and everything, but as kind of the growth kept gearing up, we always seemed like we were sticking a few more things in there on the agenda because they were time sensitive. So that's probably one consideration that I would suggest we look at. Is that going to continue to be the trend, which, we're not getting any smaller. And so I still think there's going to be things that keep getting put on those agendas that make the meeting longer. So that maybe takes away from kind of the original intent of having the meetings on site. I did appreciate being able, I know you said it wasn't really about joining on Zoom, but I did appreciate being able to join. But even with that setup, it was really hard to hear because we didn't have the individual microphones. So it was hard, like if there were certain people really close, you could hear, and some of it was real muffled. So I think that is probably definitely a consideration on the sound.
So looking at our schedule, we've got 20 meetings across the year. 5 of those are off-site. And I think the thing that bothers me the most is the reason, or one of the big reasons for going into the schools, is to have an opportunity to be in the school, breakfast with the students, let them present to us, hearing directly from the principals in their own buildings. And if we are going to be limited in any way, if students aren't going to be able to participate, I think that would be very disappointing. It's really valuable to hear from them. And so I think that if we are looking at an increased cost, but also eliminating some student opportunities, and I wouldn't be for that. And I think transparency absolutely matters, but when we're looking at 5 out of 20 total meetings, I think there's plenty of opportunity for people to speak to the board, to watch the board meetings. There's 15 other opportunities throughout the year, and they can always still come and join us. So those are my thoughts.
I kind of agree personally. I kind of liked it when it was intimate with the school and we kept the agenda short, so we had time to do that. I'd be advocate for that.
I agree. I'd forgotten. We actually went to lunch with the kids. That was fun. It's been so long, I forgot about that.
I think it creates value. The original intent was to have those conversations, to be able to focus and have our full attention on school, students. I know we've been taken down the hallway to different labs, and I mean, just to be able to see what the kids or students are actually doing and be a part of that. I think we were talking about earlier today, we're talking about if we go into a first grade, you're going to be engaged, right? They're going to pull you into whatever they're doing. And I'd hate to see us get away from that. I think it ties right in with small town values, is that board members are directly involved and participating in school activities. So I think focusing on that original intent is really important. So I think, it sounds to me like there's support here to be sans streaming right now during those morning meetings at schools.
And maybe we need to be willing to do a quick special meeting sometime to approve something that's time sensitive.
Sure.
To keep those agendas shorter. With the streaming option and the remote option, we could do some of those. If you just have one action item, we could do those everybody remotely and pass something, and it would still be transparent.
I just hate to get away from the original intent. That's kind of our pay, really, is to be able to go into schools and interact with the students. So any thoughts counter to that? And what's the flip be the opposite side advocate? I don't see the benefit, honestly. Yeah, Jason?
I don't have a counter argument. I would agree with everybody. Trying to get back to the original intent. I have, just personally, I have a lot of morning meetings. So having the meeting shorter where I can interact with teachers and students is be a better opportunity for me. So I'd like to also remove the public participation during that time and not have the streaming, just so we can move forward with that. And then it also, when we have other offsite meetings where we tour schools, and I don't think we want to have those stream as well. So, I mean, I'd be even more of a nightmare for Phil, but I mean, it kind of creates the standard for all offsite meetings where we say, you know, whether we're at school, whether we're touring a facility that's being built, whatever, we're just not going to live stream, or we're not going to have public participation.
The only suggestion that I would have looking at next year's schedule is maybe, like, I know that we do the dinner in December at Spring Hill High School, but that's our only meeting, I believe, that month. So maybe if we're looking at schedules, I don't know how to fix that one with but I just don't want it to be limited for public participation, like to go too long between meeting to meeting. But maybe that's something we look at too. Maybe that I'm not opposed to having special meetings if we have to, as long as they're not too frequent or too long.
Well, they can be remote, Sharon mentioned. It
Yeah.
could just be Zoom meetings.
Yeah,
too.
and that would be fine.
We might be able to, you know, that meeting in December, part of that is, we did that earlier because there's usually an event that night.
Yeah.
So that one would be easier to have public participation because it's in the afternoon and we're not up against that breakfast time. But I think the biggest thing is we can limit, there still may be, I mean, we try to give the staff 20 to 30 minutes to do their full presentation, and that still gives us 15 minutes. So we could still do an action item or two, depending on what it is. You know, if we have our discussions like we normally do, by the time 2 weeks later, we don't need to have a lot of discussion in that. So I think there's some things that we can work really hard on to limit how much that we have in those meetings. And maybe we just make an exception for the one in December and we can still have public participation at that one.
Yeah.
I think that we have what we needed. I just wanted to make sure that we discussed it. I don't know that it's anything that we needed to vote on because I don't think we ever voted to originally do it. But I think we needed to have a conversation so that the public knew what we were doing and why.
Sure. Okay, moving on to our next discussion item is. Yeah. Moving on to our next agenda item is the Kansas Association of School Boards Convention and the Delegate Assembly. Dr. Burke.
I may need a little help on this. The Delegate Assembly is coming up in November. And I'm sorry, I had a book open in front of me and I shut the book. November 5th, 6th, and 7th. I think right now we've got Sharon, Doug, and Jason signed up for that. You're all welcome to go to it if you want to. It is in Overland Park. So that's kind of a neat thing. It's usually in Wichita, but you're more than welcome to attend. So if you want to, just let Katie know and she can make arrangements for you. But basically with Jason being the president-elect, it kind of puts him in the awkward state that if he was the delegate, and he's been the delegate the last few years, he would end up voting for himself, which would be kind of awkward. So with that being said, we probably need to have a new or different delegate. But there's two parts of that. So you have the delegate assembly that is going to happen on, I believe that's usually the morning of I guess November 6th is when that vote would happen. And so, but then there is a follow-up for legislative priorities, which is virtually, but that's December 16th. Whenever we have a delegate, we usually have the same delegate. You don't have to, but we usually do have the same delegate. So with that being said, is there any volunteers? Anybody wants to do that? Doug or Sharon or Jason, do you guys want to add anything to that? Am I missing something?
So there's two delegate assemblies. The first one in November during the convention is just to vote for president-elect designee. It's during November 6th during lunch. Lunch will be provided. And then the next delegate assembly will be in December virtually. So it's just to go over the legislative priorities and vote on any changes to those legislative priorities. I believe I can do the virtual one in December. The only reason I didn't want to do the president-elect designee vote is just because I'm on the executive board and I didn't want to have the perception of trying to get who I wanted on the board. So it would just be nice to have somebody else do that.
So I've been acting in the capacity of quasi alternate delegate, and I'd be happy to become our delegate. I'll be here anyway, so that's fine.
Sounds good.
I think that
If
sounds
that's
like a good
okay.
idea. And if you couldn't do it, if I'm the only other person
Right.
going, I'd be willing to be your alternate delegate.
The
With alternate delegate.
alternate.
Are they having, is this gonna be back to having little breakout sessions and like it was before?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And what weekend?
It's in Overland Park this year.
November
Probably
5th.
that going.
The question was what weekend? It's November 5th, 6th, and 7th.
The convention.
Yeah, and they, just to let you guys know that we've changed a lot of stuff at KSB for the convention. So there will still be breakout sessions, but there's going to be dinner and excursion activities like to Top Golf and axe throwing and something else on Saturday. So it's just, check out the schedule. It's completely different than what we normally do. And there's a lot more opportunities and activities.
Is the new board member training that I know that I did that. Maybe, I didn't know.
Yeah, we think that the boardmanship 101 is during that time period. So
So that's probably that day, the
And the
5th. I do
latest-
plan to go to the convention, but I need to register.
Latest would be January. I know they'll do one in January, but I think they've got one. Boardsmanship 101, right? I think they've got one in this conference. But Keith, let me know. We'll sit in there and learn stuff together.
But for clarity, which weekend is the convention?
December 5th through the 7th.
That's what I thought. Okay, I heard.
I'm sorry, November 5th
Oh,
through the 7th.
November. So they moved it up a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did not know that.
So they had to move it due to COVID. They moved it back. Overland Park let them move it back a year, but only to November, not December, because they had other stuff going on to December. So we had to move it to November.
Okay.
And then Wichita will be in 2022 in December, last I know.
yeah, if you're interested in going, just get hold of Katie. If you want to spend the night and get a hotel room, we will do that as well. You know, some people say, well, if it's in Overland Park, why do you need a room? There are night activities and then you turn around and do morning activities. And sometimes you'd spend more time on the road than you would be getting to sleep. So not that anybody would stay out past 10 o'clock, but just in case.
Any other discussion? All right, moving on to items from the Board of Education for future meetings. This one's up to us. Anything on the list needs to be added or deleted?
We were going to try to remove the breakfast and lunch update, and we'll get that. Probably won't do it at the next meeting since it may take a while. So we'll do it the meeting after that. But and I have a call into Johnson County about some different dates for a tour of the community college CTE classes. So I will try to give some options so that we can all go.
I have spoke with BJ Harris just a little bit about the Spring Hill Sports Live student involvement. He's really busy right now, probably till the end of basketball season with trying to get all his deals covered. But he does have some ideas of maybe some workshops and stuff that he could do because they need people to do what they do. And some kids might really be interested in it. So he had some ideas and I think we could probably put some together, but I hate to put the pressure on him when it's really busy. So maybe next spring or something, we could work out a board meeting time to do that.
I got a couple things in regards to what Nels was talking about with the NASB. is that something we may need to put on the radar to think about some policy, or is that good? If that doesn't just blow away with the wind, if it does hang around, it may be something we need to create some policy that says we're not gonna treat a parent as a domestic terrorist if they come speak at our meeting. So yeah, that was some, I don't know if that's worth putting on that list, but something to watch.
I think we have a policy on public participation.
We do have a policy on public participation. I don't
know.
I don't think it would need amended,
Wouldn't think
right?
so.
We can look at it. I'll look at it. I will look at that. Yeah, I had one other thing. When Cassie Barton gave her update, she said that each student has 2 in-depth conversations with the counselor. And I understand that would be extremely difficult for our high school counselors to do, but I know that's something that we don't do, because I've asked my kids if they ever had a meeting with the counselor, and all 4 of them said never. So I don't know if that's something we could, I don't know if that's a Mark Williams conversation or something for us.
Yeah, why don't we go through Mark first?
Okay.
And then some other.
Okay.
The only thing that I think that this is the appropriate place, but potentially looking at policy CN with the amount of money that we are charging for potential Cora requests. I know the city is looking at that as well. They're just looking at the cities from last year, the $36,000 in Cora request fees, and that is a lot. Or that's the initial what's coming out. So if I know that we had spoke about that too, but maybe we could take a look at that policy. I know that you had suggested maybe we take a look at it again.
We were going to bring it back to you, and if you guys remember, the School Board Association brings out policy usually in December or January, and then it does it again in June or July. We're going to bring it back because we've had a couple in the last couple of years that I think that we should at least look at maximizing what the Attorney General will allow us to. And I think that's something that we should look at. We charge $25 an hour and then 25 cents a copy. We've been doing that for, I don't know, Candy, long time. I think the AG says that we can go up to $50 an hour. And so I would highly recommend that we do that, but we'll bring that policy unless you guys want it back sooner rather than later.
Oh, that's fine. If you've got it on the radar. And not in any way to discourage, because our emails are public record. But if our staff is spending an exorbitant amount of time.
Well, Greg Goheen charges more than $50 an hour.
How much?
I said Greg Goheen charges more than $50 an hour. So it's something that we probably need to rectify.
Yeah.
Hey, Dr. Burke, this isn't for the list, but I was just wondering, in our meeting in November, are we bringing in RSP for demographics and counts and that sort of thing?
I'm not that far ahead, so probably, maybe. It just depends. We bring them in once a year. I don't know if we bring them in November, so I would have to check. It seems pretty early.
That's when we did it last year, but I just wanted to get a better understanding about our school counts, just on, especially for the high school, and expectation on building capacity and that sort of thing, so we can start thinking about bonds if we need to. Thank you.
Did you get what you needed?
Good.
Okay. Any other additions to the informal conversations for future meetings? Board work calendar, Dr. Burke.
Yeah, we're right where we should be. State of the District breakfast is Thursday. So if you're planning to come, let us know. So I think Mr. Updike is the one that's going to get to recognize you. And so if you're coming, please let us know. That'll be at the high school. It starts at 7:30. So you probably want to be there a little bit before then. We don't have school that day, so you don't have to worry about finding the kids for parking. But you'll come through and go all the way back to the Commons. Christopher Villarreal has done an incredible job. Give him kudos. One thing I will notice is in the years past, I had much bigger role and it just gets smaller. And I don't know if I should take that personally or not. But I'm very excited about what you're going to see. Lots of student performance. I believe that Christopher invited every performance group at the high school and all but one said yes. And then we're going to have some other kids that are going to be there. So the fact that they're giving up some free time on a Thursday to come up is pretty awesome. I think we give them free breakfast and a pat on the back, but other than that, so I'm excited. But we've got some really neat. It's going to be different than what you've seen in the past. So I'm very, very excited. So again, if you can come, that's going to be Thursday morning. We'll start at 7:30. That means that's when we'll start eating. So if you're going to get there a little bit before that. And then we're going to try to get started right at 8 so that we can maximize the time people are there and they can get back to work. The rest of this auditor's report, probably going to look at November. I know that we have auditors in now. Is that correct? And so it'll probably be November before we get that. Handbook is done now, and then the values meeting will probably be not at the next meeting, but the first one in November. The value study. So we're right where we should be.
First one in November or December?
First one in November. We believe that we can do it in November.
All right, very good. Moving on to committee reports.
I have a couple of things. I attended the middle school site council meeting on September 20th, and I didn't report on it last meeting because I was joining remote, but lots of good things I think that are going on there. A couple of things that kind of piqued my interest were they're doing a new program called Habitudes, and kind of like the leader in me for the elementary kids, and they seem to be having some good luck with that. And then they're doing this thing called Win Time that is, I think they said 40 minutes. Is that right? 40 minutes, 20 minutes? I didn't write down the amount of time, but it gives students a chance to get extra help or to do the enrichment things that they need without sacrificing like free time or something that makes it maybe a deterrent from them actually utilizing that. So those things seem to be good. And then on October 5th, I attended the site council for Spring Hill Elementary School, and really interesting to hear about the Fast Bridge as opposed to MAP and Dibbles, and how they're really getting so much more information on that. That all seemed really positive. The one thing that I thought was kind of something that will probably be a challenge that district-wide we'll be looking at is they're seeing that the kids are kind of missing some phonics from the masking. So, or that's what they're suggesting it's from, is the masking. But the interesting and really neat thing is how the teachers are so creative, and they've come up with, one of them was talking about how she has hand signals for the different sounds. So even when she was doing Zoom and the sound wasn't very good, she could distinguish between what sounds she was saying by how she was, doing different things with her hands. And so just so impressed with our staff and just all the things that they're doing to make things work in challenging times. So it was 2 good meetings.
Habitudes is a social emotional learning program that we're using at the middle school. And that's a direct relation to our strategic plan. So we're excited about that.
Other committee reports.
Yes, I attended the Spring Hill High School Site Council meeting on 9/21. It was extremely insightful, and maybe this should have been a list item too. As at no surprise, Mr. Williams did a fantastic job updating and looking at statistics of numbers, especially classes that between like the 2019-20 now, the number of classes that kids had been failing comparatively. And we know it all looked back to remote learning. And so I think that would be something that would be beneficial on like one of our board workshops, to really have those numbers presented to us as well, to really talk through those. I mean, if I remember correctly, it was up 12% in failing grades last year, so in one class. But so while the numbers were concerning, we're back on a great path. So he did such a great job really explaining it to the parents, and also the Stuco presidents were there, and they did a really good job of giving input, and they're just so very thankful that they're able to do things this year that they couldn't last year. I think last year, more than anything, what I heard from them was now they know. Now the kids know how much they appreciate things that they maybe took for granted before. So it was a really good site council meeting, very, very, very informative and insightful. Gearing up for a full day library board retreat coming up soon, half a day. That's on 10/27. I also, as a board member and on the rec commission, Spring Hill, I met with Brian Peel and one of our representatives, Matt Troop, just to get an update on how things are going for them. And they're gearing up for basketball season. They had really successful programs with flag football. They partnered with Coach Jason Feeback, and that really increased their attendance. And so I think they're doing a really fantastic job. I do think that there needs to be more awareness that the people that are in a part of our school district, they're paying in towards I think people don't understand. They think it's Spring Hill Rec. So even those in the north, and I know that's something but whatever I can do to help them to promote that too. I was very impressed with both of them and all the ideas, just all the excitement they have around bringing youth activities, and not just sports, but all kinds of things, and to our community is pretty exciting. Let's see. I just was asked to join the City of Spring Hill has a mental health coalition, starting with 7 of us on this board. And so I look forward to reporting back on that. We had our first meeting, we'll have the second one. And I think the reason that I was asked to be a part of that was not just as a school board member, but this year received my certification in suicide prevention training and leading classes on those. So I'll be leading 3 more of those throughout the rest of this year for anybody. It's free to anybody in our district. So that's all for now.
All right, thank you. Any other committee reports?
Wolf Creek had their site council, but I could not get back in town quick enough. So I will get some information on that. So.
Okay.
Not to pick on Mr. Ewing, but we probably need to figure out if we
Great
can
Creek. I talked to Jody Cole last week. She said she would be in touch with you in the next week or so about site council. That was the site council that Eric Boyle was on. And Mr. Hoffman, just so you know, I did put Wolf Creek site council minutes in the library out on board docs. So if you want to see those, they're out there already.
And if you can't make it, we understand because you're, coming up last minute, but we wanted you to have the opportunity.
If I am, I haven't got notified. All right. Moving on to superintendent report, Dr. Burke.
Yeah. Hey, I'm kind of excited. We started a student superintendent council, and I got to meet. We had, 2 juniors, 2 seniors, 1 sophomore, 1 freshman, 2 8th graders from each middle school. And we wanted to start off small and kind of visit. This will be the group that is your liaison that will be coming and sharing information with you. We wanted to kind of they have a lot of questions. So we're not sure exactly which meeting that they're going to come to, but they're going to come and meet you and then get some direction from you as to what you want from them. But the first thing we want to do is just kind of meet each other and just kind of get to know each other and be able to have that easy rapport. It's not always easy to come in and meet a stranger because, they know who I am, but they don't really know who I am. And so they came in and principals came with them and God, we had a great, anytime you get to hang out with the students, it's really neat. And we had a couple of things just to kind of break the ice, get to know you. And I was very, very impressed with them. And they started bringing up some things that they were concerned about. Some of the vandalism that's going on and some of the TikTok things and what they could do to help and what we could do to help them. And we started brainstorming some ideas. So we will be doing more of that. We wanted to, as a group, I asked them how soon they wanted to meet with you, and they want to meet a couple times, get comfortable. And then probably as a group, they'll come meet with you and visit with you. And then after that, you'll probably meet one or two at a time. I don't know how excited they were to be by themselves, but I think having a couple of them coming each time. We talked about maybe eventually adding fifth graders. We kind of wanted to see how this went right at first. When you're starting something new, it's good to have baby steps. But like I said, it was a real pleasure for us. We asked them when they wanted to meet, because the first time we met was a late arrival day, and that was a day for them to sleep in. And they decided that would be the best day for them to meet. So that was kind of, it just shows the commitment they are to the district. And so very, very excited about that. So we fed them breakfast, and other than that, that's all they got out of it, a pat on the back, and then knowing that they're going to come visit with you. But we'll meet a couple more times, and then you'll get to meet them. It's not a secret. I'll give you a list of the people that are on there, but I'm very, very excited about this. Great group of young people. So very excited.
Very good. Final agenda item is adjournment. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
8:30.
Thank you.